Aloha and good afternoon, everyone. It is Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025, and the time is now 1:02 p.m. Will the Committee on Zoning and Planning meeting please come to order? I would like to welcome committee members Cordero, Okimoto, and Tupola. I understand Vice Chair Waters should be coming here shortly. Although remote verbal testimony is being permitted, this is a regular in-person meeting and not a remote meeting by interactive conference technology under HRS Section 92-3.7. Therefore, the meeting will continue notwithstanding loss of audio-visual communication with remote testifiers or loss of the public broadcast of the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide verbal testimony on all items on the agenda when each item is taken up in two ways: in person in the council chamber and remotely via video conference or phone. Before testifying, each person shall state their name for the record. Each speaker will be limited to a 1-minute presentation per item. All persons who register to testify in person will be called upon first. Persons who did not register will be given an opportunity to offer testimony after the registered testifiers. Once in-person testimony has concluded, I will proceed to the remote testifiers. When I call your name or the last 3 digits of your phone number, please follow the prompts to unmute. As both English and Hawaiian are official languages of the state of Hawaii, pursuant to Article 515, Section 4 of the Hawaii State Constitution and Section 113 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes, members of the public may testify in either language. For verbal testimonies offered in Olelo, Hawaii, additional time as may be necessary will be allowed for the testifier to provide an English translation of their testimony. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off or silence all cell phones for the duration of this meeting. Thank you. Before we move into agenda item number 1, I just wanted to notify my colleagues that I will be moving agenda item number 3, Bill 51, 2025, CD1, to the end of the agenda, including after the informational briefing. And the reason being that it was brought to our attention about a modification that needs to be made to the bill. As you know, we have the bill and the attached plan. I needed the Word version of the plan to reinsert something, and I did not get that until 20 minutes ago. And as a result, I need to give the Office of Council Services the appropriate time to be able to achieve our objective. So I just wanted to let you know that, and that would be for anybody out there who'd be testifying again on agenda item number 3, which is Bill 51. It will not happen until the end of agenda. Moving to agenda item number 1 for action, Resolution 25-238. This resolution confirms the reappointment of Mahealani Cipher to serve on the Oahu Historic Preservation Commission of the City and County of Honolulu for a term to expire on June 16, 2030. Ms. Cipher was first appointed to the commission in 2023 for a 2-year term and is extremely knowledgeable in Native Hawaiian history and culture. Members, we have posted on the agenda a proposed CD1 version of the resolution, which I submitted. For your information, a summary of the amendments is listed on the agenda. The CD1 makes technical amendments, including formatting changes, correcting typographical errors, and referencing the mayor's message number. I would like to call up the appointee to say a few words. Aloha Mahealani, could you please introduce yourself and share a little about your current and envisioned future role on the commission?
Aloha mai kako. Mahalo for inviting me here today to offer whatever mana'o I may have to share with you. I'm really excited about this commission continuing to work to establish itself, to show how it can help with historic preservation matters before the city. I'm hoping we can complete our rulemaking in the next few months. And there's other things that are on our plans and agenda that we hope will help the city in all of the things that are needed to carry out what was desired when the commission was first established. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer the best I can.
Members, any questions? And welcome Chair Waters as well as Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
I have one more thing to add. When we first proposed this commission in 1992, I think it was, we explained to each of the council members that in each of their 9 districts, there are many historic places and places where history occurred that you may not know about. And so we think that it would really be great if some of you would learn about these things and maybe study the history of your area, because the community loves it. When you tell them what happened in their neighborhoods, they, really light up. They love to hear the stories of old Hawaii before Western contact. So every community has exciting historic places. Thank you.
That's a great idea. I'm wondering at the appropriate time, perhaps we can have an informational briefing, and maybe we'll have a huaka'i here in the city council whereby you take a tour around the island and maybe talk about the unique history of each of our districts.
That would be really fun.
Okay, thank you for the recommendation. Thank you. Before I call up the administration, I would like to take public testimony. Proceeding first with in-person testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Do we have any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you so much. For the administration, do we have anyone from the Department of Planning and Permitting?
Michael Catt here for DPP.
I'm assuming you strongly support this nominee?
Yes, we support the nominee and the proposed CD1.
Members, any questions? If there are no questions or further discussion, the chair hereby recommends that Resolution 25-238 be amended to the posted CD1. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, the resolution has been amended to a CD1. The chair then recommends that Resolution 25-238 CD1 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving to agenda item number 2 for action. Resolution 25-237. This resolution confirms the appointment of Catherine Stevens to serve on the Oahu Historic Preservation Commission of the City and County of Honolulu to fill a vacant position previously held by Halama Farden for a term to expire on June 16, 2030. Ms. Stevens is a licensed architect and has a wealth of experience in historic preservation. We have posted on the agenda a proposed CD1 version of the resolution, which I submitted. For your information, a summary of the amendment is listed on the agenda. The CD1 makes technical amendments, including formatting changes, correcting typographical errors, and referencing the mayor's message number. I would like to call up the appointee, if she is here, to say a few words. If you could please introduce yourself and share the role you hope to fulfill in the commission.
Thank you very much. Aloha, everybody. I got my master's in architecture at the University of Hawaii as well as a certificate in historic preservation, and I've worked my entire 33-year career here in historic preservation. I always found historic preservation to be interesting, but I found over those years it's actually also very important. And historic resources offer us the opportunity to learn about people that came here, where they came from, when they came here, why they came here, how they lived, what was important to them. And when we learn more about our past and other people, we understand more about each other, and I think it really can bring us together as a community. I look forward to this opportunity to support the city and county and to help educate the public about these important resources. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Members, are there any questions for the nominee? As I mentioned in our talk story, I greatly appreciate you agreeing to serve on the commission. I think you bring a lot of wealth of knowledge and I'm just heartened that in the evolution of the commission, we're now renominating people and having people like yourselves come on board, and I think it only strengthens the hand of the overall commission. Before I call up the administration, thank you. I would like to take public testimony, proceeding first with in-person testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Is there anyone else in the council chamber who would like to testify on this item? Seeing none, proceeding with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
For the administration, thank you, Ms. Stevens.
Thank you very much.
Michael Catt for DPP. We are in support of the nominee and the proposed CD1.
Thank you so much. Member, any questions for the administration? Any discussion? If not, the chair recommends that Resolution 25-237 be amended to the posted CD1. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, the resolution has been amended to a CD1. The chair then recommends that Resolution 25-237 CD1 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving on to agenda item number 4, Bill 62, 2025. Right. This bill makes certain amendments to ROH Section 25-5.70-30 as enacted by Ordinance 25-2 relating to bed and breakfast, home, and transient vacation unit standards and requirements, which were initially made under Ordinance 24-14, but inadvertently omitted under Ordinance 25-2. If you recall, Ordinance 25-2 repealed and replaced Land Use Ordinance Article 5 relating to land use regulations. Members note that figures 21-5.1, 21-5.2, 21-5.3, and 21-5.4 in the bill, which depict the areas in close proximity to Waikiki, Kiaʻāina Resort, Turtle Bay Resort, and Ho'akalei Resort, where bed and breakfast homes and transient vacation units are permitted, appear in black and white and are little grainy. I would like to propose a verbal amendment for a CD1 version of the bill that replaces all 4 figures with the higher resolution color versions that appear in Ordinance 25-2. For members of the public, note that the title and purpose clause of the bill are very narrow. So the only amendments that can be made in the bill are the amendments made in Ordinance 24-14, which primarily relate to registration requirements. Some testifiers have suggested that other amendments be made to the bed and breakfast home and transient vacation unit provisions, but that could not be done under Bill 62 and will need to be taken up in a separate bill. Before I call up the administration, I would like to take public testimony. Proceeding first with in-person testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, we have a couple standing by.
When I call your name, please come forward to the testifier podium and begin by stating your name for the record. Please conclude your remarks promptly when you hear the buzz of the timer. The first testifier is Edward Jones.
Ed Jones for Costro in opposition. At the chair's request, I'm going to skip my first paragraph. Vice Chair Waters, mahalo for introducing this bill and your discussion with me at the KS community meeting. You also attended the Hawaii Kai Mayor's Town Hall and heard the mayor's direction to clarify that short-term rental may occur on the same residential lot. This bill is the LUO is unconstitutional until this is achieved. You were going to have lunch with Mayor Blangiardi. I appreciate that. That was a couple months ago. Hopefully that's occurred, and that you're prepared to bring the results of your discussion back. And a separate bill is great. Chair, if I can have like 15 seconds, thank you. Would be a great idea. Chair, would you be willing to introduce that bill at the next full council meeting for first reading?
I'm not going to be entertaining anything until after this committee hearing is possible. So no, I'm not going to commit to anything
I'll
at this
follow up with
juncture.
your office on the phone. Thank you very much. Mayor Van Blanchard has acknowledged that this is urgent. Bill 62 is before us now, but I totally respect your authority to find the best and fastest way to achieve this. Your residents are suffering, and it's been years, and it's time to bring this forward. My proposal for the bill is in Exhibit A of the COSTRO written testimony. That would be a good start. The Exhibit A is the rooms portion, and we'll be glad to make sure that you have copies for dwellings also. Mahalo, I can answer any questions at this point, but I recognize
Members,
the
any
subject matter.
questions? Thank you so much. The next
Mahalo.
testifier is Margaret Orand.
Aloha, avakea kaku. I'm Margaret Orand. I'm here to testify. I agree with the people that think the re-registration fee of $1,000 is excessive and should not be required when there's a change of management. As far as the rest of my testimony, I did not realize until a few minutes ago that nothing can be added to this bill. However, if it could, Mayor Blangiardi says we are not the target of the bot employed by the DPP, which has put some of us out of business, including myself. My property has been invisible for months now, and I have no further bookings. This is rather distressful. And when I explain to people what is happening, they are both shocked and appalled at the fines and the restrictions. They should not be. They are unconstitutional. And I don't think the city wants to defend a suit on the constitutional issues. In my one case, the damages would be $900,000. And you multiply me by 1,000, and you've got a hefty damages under the regulatory takings in the Fifth Amendment. If we could add something to this bill, it would be a bed and breakfast hosted short-term rental must have a current homeowner's homestead exemption for purposes of property tax. A bed and breakfast or hosted short-term rental unit must be registered pursuant to the requirements of this bill and may be rented for any time period pursuant to the provisions of HRS 52221. All references to 30 and 90-day minimum stay time periods are null and void as regards bed and breakfasts or hosted short-term rentals. Everyone is confused about whether it even includes, including VRBO, about whether it's 30 or 90 days. And we'd like to settle on 30 days if we possibly could.
Thank you so much for your testimonies. I will assure all of you who are testifying today that I am going to look at all of the testimony and actually have a discussion with DPP separately because to determine the parameters of any amendments being proposed, okay? So it might not just be under consideration the amendments you are proposed. DPP might have some additional amendments as well as amendments by my colleagues. So thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the council chamber who would like to testify on this item?
Okay, Cole McClellan on behalf of the American Hotel and Lodging Association and Hawaii Hotel Alliance, offering comments in support of Bill 62. This council and the administration have worked very hard on codifying the short-term rental rules that are in place. This cleans up some of the things that DPP needs to ensure that we're enforcing the laws that are on the books. If anything, Chair, the team at DPP can use your support and this council's support in continuing to do the great job of enforcing. We're not going to presume to put words in the mayor's mouth or threaten you with a lawsuit today, but we will say that we appreciate everything that you folks continue to do on the short-term rental front. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the council chamber who would like to testify on this item? Aloha.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES. I'm neutral in this discussion. I'd just like to comment. I think the bill, if I'm reading it accurately, is requiring the property owners wishing to and desiring to rent out a home for their Airbnb to abide by these restrictive parameters in good faith to direct these business activities in an effort to control unlawful rentals, reduce liabilities, but then it also helps the city to avoid liabilities in mismanagement of properties not in good standing with the law. So it requires additional homeowners insurance, umbrella coverage to meet the $1 million in homeowners insurance and business liability coverage, as well as the creation of homeowners associations to manage what's being talked about in Bill 62. So I think it's expected that these property owners have a certain threshold of investment knowledge, as well as
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
guest experience
And Angela,
management.
Angela, you know I appreciate you coming on occasion, but we don't need a recitation of what the bill is. You're here to testify on whether or not you support or you oppose or you have comments, but thank you for your testimony.
I think they should talk to the State House about it.
Is there anyone else in the council chamber who would like to testify on this item? Clerks, do we have any remote testimony?
Chair, we have a couple standing by.
We have signing up for remote testimony, Kelly Lee. Kelly, are you there? Aloha, Kelly, please proceed.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and the Zoning Committee. I'm Kelly Lee with the Oahu Short-Term Rental Alliance. We strongly support Bill 6225, which builds on the success of Ordinance 2414, and it makes registration more efficient. But one unintended issue remains. The law requires a full re-registration and $1,000 fee every time an operator or point of contact changes, even when the owner remains the same. These routine changes create unnecessary costs for the owners and duplicate work for DPP, BFS, and the tax department without improving registration compliance. It also creates a disincentive for owners to comply, which goes against the purpose of the bill. We respectfully ask that you amend Section 2CY to remove change in operator as a trigger for re-registration, or it could be replaced with a simpler update process or a modest fee. Please fix this unintended consequence so a simple operator change doesn't cost $1,000 and create extra work for everyone. Mahalo.
Thank you so much. The next person is Bradley Ramos. I'm sorry. Bradley Ramos, please move forward.
Hello. Hi, my name is Bradley Ramos. I'm Reservations Manager at Captain Cook Resorts, speaking on behalf of my company as well as the Oahu Short-Term Rental Alliance. Pretty much the same testimony as Kelly. I do support Bill 6225. We think it makes registration more efficient, and we are very thankful for that. But I have one key concern, same as Kelly, that a full new registration with a $1,000 fee is required anytime an operator or on-island contact changes, even when the property owner remains the same. These Routine updates add unnecessary costs for owners and duplicate work for all the government agencies involved without providing any real additional compliance benefit. So I respectfully ask that Section 2CY be amended to remove change in operator as a trigger for re-registration, or at least allow a simple contact info update process with a more modest fee that matches the minor nature of the changes to an owner's existing approved short-term rental registration. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brad. And to you and everyone who's testified, I actually share your concerns, and I'll be calling up DPP to ask questions. So thank you so much. Is there anyone else standing by remotely who would like to testify on this item? Please raise the hand button.
Chair, there are none.
Thank you so much. Can we have the administration come to testify on this item?
Good afternoon, Chair Kiaʻāina and committee members. I'm Elizabeth Krieger with the Department of Planning and Permitting. Thank you very much for taking this bill up today. This was something that we generated once we realized that it had been inadvertently omitted under Ordinance 25-2. We thank the council staff and the staff at the Office of Council Services for working with us on this. And you have already summarized how it changes from Ordinance 25-2. If you would like me to go into any of those in more detail, I'd be happy to do that.
No, I think we're okay. I just want to start with questions. So my first question is, you've heard all of the testimony, and I share the concern for the re-registration requirement that includes a $1,000 fee for any change in operator or an online point of contact. I understand because of the narrow description that we were unable to make amendments, but what is DPP's position on that? And of course, if you share the concerns, would you support a remedy in that regard?
Yes, I do share those concerns, and I think that the department would be amenable to looking at a remedy for that.
Okay, so if we introduce a freestanding measure, that you would be supportive of that legislation, is that correct?
To change the fees
Yes.
relating to that? Well, I haven't gotten a chance to talk to the director about it, but I definitely think that she would be interested in a discussion about it.
Okay, thank you so much. And what I would recommend is that if there are other things that are non-related to this bill that may have to all be considered, then perhaps we could do it as a comprehensive measure. I would like a heads up on whether or not it would be an administration proposal or whether you'd like myself or another member to introduce that remedy. Okay, can we keep in touch on that?
Yes, we can absolutely keep in touch on that.
Thank you so much. Members, are there any questions to DPP? Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you, Chair. A quick question, Elizabeth, on page 10, it says the renewal fee, and then it strikes it out and says specify in 6-41.1. Is that an actual list of fees, or is it just a reference to admin rules?
No, that's an actual table of DPP land use permits fees.
Oh, okay. And is that for many different things aside from vacation rentals? Is that why it's referring to that as opposed to writing it in here?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for your help. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, members, any other questions? If not, thank you. The chair recommends that Bill 62, 2025 be amended to a CD1 that replaces figures 21-5.1, 21-5.2, 21-5.3, and 21-5.4 with the higher resolution color versions that appear in Ordinance 25-2. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, the bill has been amended to a CD1. The chair then recommends that Bill 62, 2025 CD1 be reported out for passage on second reading and the scheduling of a public hearing. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. For all of you who have testified in person and online, I hope that you heard the discussion with regard to the concerns that you have shared. We hear it, and we are going to be considering a remedy in concert with the city administration. Mahalo. Moving to agenda item number 5 for action, Resolution 25-229. This resolution grants a special management area major permit to Sea Turtles Estates LLC to allow for the demolition of an existing single-unit dwelling and the construction of a new 2-story single dwelling unit, detached 4-car garage with a recreation room above the garage, 5 open parking spaces, replacement of the existing cesspool with a new individual wastewater system with leach field, installation of dry walls to collect and disperse stormwater runoff, and landscaping improvements on an approximately 1.36 acre shoreline lot, Zone R5 Residential District, located at 56-157 Kamehameha Highway in Malaikahana and identified as tax map key 56001-089. Members, we have posted on the agenda a proposed CD1 version of the resolution which I submitted. For your information, a summary of the amendments is listed on the agenda. I would also like to propose a verbal amendment to remove condition C1, which would have required the applicant to prepare and submit to the State Historic Preservation Division a revised cultural impact assessment. The division does not accept and approve cultural impact assessments. The certified shoreline survey for the project site has expired, but the Director of Planning and Permitting waived the requirement that a new certified shoreline survey be conducted because the project is located mauka of the regulatory 60-foot shoreline setback plus 15 feet. All project buildings and structures are located at least 75 feet from the presumed shoreline, with the nearest structure located approximately 82 feet from the shoreline. The applicant proposes to install dry wells on the project site to collect and disperse stormwater runoff. Condition B of the proposed CD1 provides that prior to the issuance of any construction permit or building permit for the project, the applicant is required to submit to the department revised project plans showing the location of the dry wells and the associated earthwork calculations. The State Historic Preservation Division commented that iwi kupuna, or Native Hawaiian ancestral remains, were found on adjacent and nearby parcels and requested the preparation of an archaeological inventory survey with subsurface testing for the project site. Condition C of the proposed CD1 includes conditions requiring the applicant to prepare and submit to the division an archaeological inventory survey and to implement all mitigation protocols approved or otherwise required by the division. The project involves the excavation of approximately 17 cubic yards of soil for the new individual wastewater system tank and 95 cubic yards for the associated leach field. About half of the excavated soil will be used as infill for the excavation sites, and the remaining soil will be used to backfill the area where the current cesspool is located. The applicant also proposes to import 29.2 cubic yards of structural fill material for the project's slab-on-grade foundations. Since structural fill may contain invasive pathogens, pests, or plants, the proposed CD1 includes condition D, which requires the applicant to comply with certain protocols to minimize the spread of invasive species. The Makai portion of the project site is anticipated to be impacted by 3.2 feet of sea level rise by the year 2100, but all proposed project structures will be located mauka of the sea level rise exposure area. Joining us in the council chamber is Mark Howland from Well Environmental Services, who will be providing a brief presentation. For your information, the presentation is available online as Miscellaneous Communication 491-2025.
Aloha, Chair and council members. Thank you for hearing me today. We're here for Resolution 229, and the address is 57157 Kamehameha Highway in Malaikahana. This is Sea Turtle Estates. Diana Zuko is the applicant. She's the owner of Sea Turtles Estates LLC. As we're here today, we prepared the written statement, submitted to DPP, and they've reviewed. It's, as we said, with the address, it's over $500,000 of work. It's a severely damaged termite-infested home that'll be demolished and replaced with a new home and a detached garage with a rec room above. This is the location. It's directly across from Gunstock Ranch. And as you see, it's near where the split that goes up to the ridge starts to develop. This is the current site plan. As you can see, this area of Malakahana has a very steep coastal bank, so most of the sea level rise lines are down by the bank, and the property actually slopes down towards, from where the house is, down towards the highway, so the runoff will be in that direction. This is the plot plan for the site. This is the shoreline study website. As you see, it has a small loss along the line. It kind of splits between an accretion and a loss line, so it doesn't add very much to the shoreline setback. The soils on the map are Jack sands, which is one of the reasons why there are cultural concerns. The ARC sites that have been detected before are 2 lots to the south of this lot. These are site photos of the site. As you can see, it's moderately sloping, mostly grass with a fringe of palm trees along the perimeter, side perimeters, and the pocket on the shoreline, falls in the pocket. Sea level rise, it's pretty much confined to the beach area and the beach sands below. This is the flood hazard map. It's an X zone flood zone. This is the topo of the area, which shows the way the land slopes to the marker side. So essentially, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer. Thank you.
Members, are there any questions? Thank you, Mr. Holland. I know that you and I be in contact on a matter that was raised to our attention, but if you don't mind, I'm going to move forward and just ask it to you in this hearing. I understand that some of the project plans that were attached as exhibits to the resolution were initially prepared by a licensed architect whose stamp appears on the exhibits, but the plans were subsequently revised by another architect without removing the initial architect's stamp. Can you please confirm that the conceptual plans that appear in the exhibits accurately portray and represent the proposed project and describe what adjustments were made to the plans by the new architect? Can you also please explain why the initial architect stamp was not removed when the plans were altered by a different architect?
Ms. Diane Zuko had sent a letter to your staff members explaining that she'd paid in full for the plans and they were her property. The architect did not want to remove the impervious concrete driveway and change it to a pervious concrete driveway, which is something DPP prefers for groundwater recharge. And so that was the only major change. And then she incorrectly identified where the shoreline setback was going to be. It's 75 feet plus 2.1 feet of erosion rate loss. So the actual, she wouldn't do it. And so that's why the applicant had to have a draftsman change the number from 75 feet to 77.1 setback.
But why did you still leave the previous architect stamp on? Why, if you were modifying it, why didn't you get the new architect to drop new plans rather than just make a modification to someone else's
That
work?
was between Ms. Zuko. We had nothing to do with the developmental plans.
Okay, well, I'll ask DPP when they come up. Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you.
Any members, do you have any other questions here? Thank you. I'm going to take, before I call up the administration, I would like to take public testimony. Proceeding first with in-person testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Is there anyone else in the council chamber who would like to testify on this item? Please come forward to the podium and begin by stating your name. Seeing none, proceeding with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item, or is anyone else standing by online to testify?
Chair, there are none.
For the administration of planning and permitting?
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. Elizabeth Krieger. We support the CD1 for this, and we support the project.
Thank you so much. Could you elaborate a little on what I previously discussed with the agent regarding this property? I understand that you were notified by the architect. Can you tell me what is common practice when an agent is submitting documents to DPP with regard to a stamp of approval by an architect?
Yes. Land use permit plans don't actually have to be stamped by an architect at the conceptual phase, but they do have to be stamped by the architect during the building permit phase. So we were notified by the previous architect when she saw her stamp on the plans that had been transmitted in our draft report and recommendation, and let us know that she was no longer on the project and was concerned that her stamp was still on there. So she did verify that the owner will have a different architect during the phase where it gets submitted for the building permit application. And our concern there was that possibly the plans that were submitted as part of the building permit application would have elements that were not considered as part of the SMA approval. It sounds like the agent has confirmed that in general the plan will be essentially the same, but we appreciate the discussion occurring that we make sure that we are in fact evaluating the plans that would show the conceptual dwelling so that we can accurately evaluate the coastal impacts.
Is that standard practice for someone to modify another architect's plans and still have their stamp of approval on it?
As I understand it, once they modify another architect's plans, the stamp would have to be removed because the person who had stamped and essentially certified the work was no longer the last person who touched it.
So would you recommend for the agent who has presented the application that moving forward in the future, that they adhere to that code of conduct?
Yes, I'd strongly recommend at least being open and transparent with the department about who the architect of record is and making sure that the stamps accurately reflect that.
Okay, thank you so much. The members, any questions? The chair recommends that Resolution 25-229 be amended to the posted CD1 as further amended, as we discussed, to remove condition C1, which would have required the applicant to prepare and submit to the State Historic Preservation Division a revised cultural impact assessment. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, the resolution has been amended to a CD1. The chair then recommends that Resolution 25-229 CD1 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving to agenda item number 6, for action, Resolution 25-230. This resolution grants a special management area major permit to James M. and Mary E. Sippin to allow for the construction of a new 2-story single-unit dwelling with covered lanais, exterior stairs, attached 2-car carport, and 2 uncovered parking spaces, and the installation of a new individual wastewater system on an approximately 29,976 square foot shoreline zoned lot zoned R5 residential district located at 47711A Kamehameha Highway in Kahului and identified as tax map key 470141010. Members, we have posted on the agenda a CD1, which I submitted. For your information, a summary of the amendments is listed on the agenda. The project site has been submitted to a condominium property regime and consists of 2 condominium units. The project will be constructed on condominium unit 1 on the Malka portion of the project site, and there is an existing single unit dwelling with an individual wastewater system on condominium unit 2 on the Makai portion of the project site. The certified shoreline survey for the project site has expired, but the Director of Planning and Permitting waived the requirement that a new certified shoreline survey be conducted because the project is located Malka of the regulatory 60-foot shoreline setback plus 15 feet. All project buildings and structures are located at least 75 feet from the presumed shoreline, with the nearest structure located more than 150 feet from the shoreline. The project site is located within flood zone AEF, which is a floodway associated with drainage from the Kiaʻāina stream watershed. The project dwelling will be elevated above the 9-foot base flood elevation level with a finished floor elevation of approximately 10.5 feet above mean sea level. In addition, the ground level will be enclosed with breakaway walls to allow any water entering the area to flow through without damaging the structural beams and column footings. Development within flood zone AEF must comply with the special flood hazard requirements of ROH Chapter 21A and requires an approved floodway permit. The applicant has filed 2 applications for a floodway permit, but both applications were rejected as incomplete and required additional information. To ensure the applicant is aware of additional flood-related requirements and approvals, Condition B of the proposed CD1 requires the applicant to obtain flood insurance for damage or loss to the project structures, and Condition J1 requires the applicant to obtain a floodway permit prior to the issuance of any construction permit or building permit for the project. The Mauka portion of the project site where the project will be developed is anticipated to be impacted by 3.2 feet of sea level rise by the year 2100, and approximately 2/3 of the project dwelling is within the 3.2-foot sea level rise exposure area. Combined with the flood hazard risks of being located within the floodway, Condition C2 of the proposed CD1 requires the applicant to acknowledge and take responsibility for the cleanup and restoration of the project site in the event of coastal erosion-related loss of property. When the applicant presented the project to the Kahului Neighborhood Board, number 29, and at the Department of Planning and Permitting's public hearing on the project, community members expressed concern about installing another individual wastewater system in an area subject to flooding and sea level rise. The project system will be located in the Mauka-most portion of the project site in an area outside of the 3.2-foot sea level rise exposure area. The entire area surrounding the project site is not served by the city sewer system, so such development must provide its own individual wastewater system that is designed and sized to meet the wastewater requirements of that development. The State Department of Health regulates and approves of these systems, including location and safeguards to prevent the release of pollutants into the environment. Previous archaeological research in the general area of the project site documented a relatively large number of traditional and archaeological sites and features, including habitation and agricultural sites, heiau, burial sites, and fish ponds. By letter dated May 22nd, 2025, the State Historic Preservation Division recommended that an archaeological inventory survey with subsurface testing be conducted for the project site. The division also recommended that the applicant consult with recognized descendants of the area and the division regarding appropriate testing strategy prior to implementing the survey. Condition G of the proposed CD1 includes conditions requiring the applicant to prepare and submit to the division an archaeological inventory survey and to implement all mitigation protocols approved or otherwise required by the division. The project involves the disturbance of approximately 107.5 cubic yards of soil for site preparation and construction activities. The applicant also proposes to import 103 cubic yards of structural fill material for the project's support grade beams, column footings, concrete slabs, and the leach field. No importation of soil fill material is proposed. Since structural fill may contain invasive pathogens, pests, or plants, the proposed CD1 includes Condition I, which requires the applicant to comply with certain protocols to minimize the spread of invasive species. Joining us in the chamber is Mark Holland from Well Environmental Services, who will be providing a brief presentation. For your information, the presentation is available online as Miscellaneous Communication 493, 2025.
Aloha, Chair, committee members. Thank you for hearing us today. This is the James Sippins property, Mary Sippin. This is James Sippins here sitting down. He's the owner of the property. We, of course, reviewed this with DPP and went over the different changes they wanted. And we got to the point where we think it's a well-designed project that addresses the concerns in sea level rise areas. It has, before mentioned, it's a residential lot, over $500,000, so it's an SMA major. This is the property. The state GIS lines are always a little bit off on this, but you get a general idea of what the property looks like. The existing single-family dwelling is the shoreline property. Where the red dot is where his proposed new single-family dwelling would be. There was a house there years ago. It's been demolished and torn down. This is the site plan of what he plans to do. And it shows you where the 3.2 erosion line is. This is the type of house it is. It's a Hansa door modular home building, so it'd be relatively easy to erect. These are site photos of the site. It's mostly lawn, fescue grasses, or guinea grass on the majority of the site. The soils on the site are Pearl Harbor clays, which is one of the reasons why it's slow draining. The leach field requires better draining type material. This is the 3.2 sea level rise exposure area. It's the reason why the septic system will be close to the highway. And the house is up on pilings. There's no coastal erosion indicators on this site. This unstudied area is most of Kaneohe Bay is. Critical habitat, there's nothing, this is the hurricane surge, I'm sorry. It's going to be affected in the category 4. This is the critical habitat map. As you can see, it's only up in the mountains. It's probably the Hawaiian hoary bat. Again, we always listen very carefully to what the council recommends, and the CDE conditions match the concerns that we had as well. So there's a series of conditions that we thank you for providing, such as dark sky, wildlife protection, cultural investigations, clean soils, and SMA acknowledgement of climate impact. Thank you. Take any questions.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? Chair Waters.
Slightly off subject, but I'm in support. But is this a dock? Does the property have a dock there?
It's a CPR subdivision, so the CPR unit that's on the water that's already built does have a dock.
So I think it's grandfathered in. You can't build a new dock, so you're gonna want to keep that there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not. There's no activity on that CPR unit.
Oh. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Before we call up the administration, I would like to take public testimony. Proceeding first with in-person testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Is there any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. For the administration?
Thank you, Chair. Elizabeth Krieger for the Department of Planning and Permitting. We support the CD1 and we support the project.
Thank you. I have no questions. Members, any questions or further discussion? If not, the chair recommends that Resolution 25-230 be amended to the posted CD1. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, the resolution has been amended to a CD1. The chair then recommends that Resolution 25-230 CD1 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving to agenda item number 7, for action, Resolution 25-245. This resolution grants a special management area major permit to Noel E. Remington to allow for the construction of an addition to an existing single-unit dwelling involving the expansion of the first floor with 2 covered lanais and a new second floor with a partially covered lanai, the construction of a new 2-story single-unit dwelling with attached garage to accommodate 6 vehicles, covered lanai, and concrete driveway with 2 uncovered parking spaces, and the installation of a new individual wastewater system for the new dwelling on an approximately 31,480 square foot shoreline lot zoned R5 residential district located at 56225 Kamehameha Highway in Malai Kahana and identified as tax map key 56001-078. We have posted on the agenda a CD1 version of the resolution. For your information, a summary of the amendment is listed on the agenda. Approximately 10% of the project site is anticipated to be impacted by 3.2 feet of sea level rise by the year 2100, but there are no proposed structures in this affected area. According to State Historic Preservation Division records, subsurface cultural deposits and iwi kupuna, Native Hawaiian ancestral remains, have been identified in the vicinity of the project site, including 2 sites included on the State Inventory of Historic Places. A majority of the soil on the project site area is classified as Jacques sand, which, as we all know, has a higher likelihood of containing subsurface archaeological sites in iwi kupuna. By letter dated May 23, 2025, The division recommended that an archaeological inventory survey with subsurface testing be conducted for the project site. The division also recommended the applicant consult with recognized descendants of the area and the division regarding appropriate testing strategy prior to implementing the survey. Condition F of the proposed CD1 includes conditions requiring the applicant to prepare and submit to the division an archaeological inventory survey and to implement all mitigation protocols approved or otherwise required by the division. The applicant proposes to import approximately 46 cubic yards of structural fill material for the project's new garbage slab foundation and approximately 4 cubic yards of soil fill material. Since fill material may contain invasive pathogens, pests, or plants, the proposed CD1 includes condition I, which requires the applicant to comply with certain protocols to minimize the spread of invasive species. Joining us in the chamber is Mark Howland, again from Well Environmental Services, for a brief presentation. For your information, the presentation is available online as Miscellaneous Communication 49-2-2025.
Aloha, Chair, council members, thank you for hearing this. This is the Remington property. It's next door to the Peach property that you gave an SMA permit to last year. Why didn't it switch? No, it's not switching. Yeah, go that one. Thank you. So this is a photo of the property. It's an R5 district. The shoreline survey has certified at a 6,360 foot erosion loss. So for isolated, for impervious surface area calculation, it's actually less than the actual lot. So I guess it's working now. It's an R5 district. Again, it's over $500,000 in SMA major. The Dr. Mike Dagger from SCS has been hired. He's already started the monitoring plan has been approved, and he's already started the AIS. This is the shoreline of the beach, which is not going to be affected at all. As you can see, it's one of the few places in Hawaii where the beach is actually still pretty good. These is the proposal. One is modification of the existing dwelling in the same footprint where it is, then a brand new dwelling next to the highway for her daughter. Conceptually, this is what they would look like. It's in the SMA district. The Jack of Sands is mentioned, beach sands up by the beach. There's no work in the beach sands area. And as I said, the AIS has already been done. 3.2 sea level rise, again, does not go into the work areas. This is the, what's this one? Oh, again, there's no coastal erosion line indicators for this area. On the hurricane surge, a category 4 affects most of the area, but not this particular site for some reason. I think it's because it's deep within the bay. The endangered species is a proposal to name the beach area as critical habitat. Currently, they identified as potential. We do know it has green sea turtles and monk seals. They've been observed on the property. And again, the same series of conditions that I discussed before, which have come out of discussions with DPP and the council. We thank you for them. We think they make it for a very protected coastal development. Thank you.
Members, any questions? Before I call on the administration, I would like to take public testimony. Proceeding first with in-person testimony. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
And if anyone would like to present testimony, please come forward. Seeing none, proceeding on with remote testifiers and anyone standing by. Clerks, do we have anyone standing by?
Chair, there are none.
Any questions? Oh, I'm sorry. DPP.
Thank you, Chair. We support the CD1 and we support the project.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe if I could get not for DPP, but for the developer. I was just curious. These are nice drawings, but these are two big homes. Who will be living in this? Are these residential?
The existing house that's going to be renovated is the Remingtons, Brad and Noel, and then the daughter and her family, and I believe she has 2 young kids are going to be in the other new house.
Okay, so for current residents not to be used
No.
commercially
Definitely not.
or any other
It's
way?
family use only.
Okay,
It's the same
thank
thing
you.
as the Peaches next door. They were building their house that you approved last year for a family member.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. If there are no further questions or discussion, the chair recommends that Resolution 25-245 be amended to the posted CD1. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, the resolution has been amended to a CD1. The chair then recommends that Resolution 25-245 CD1 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving to agenda item number 8 for action, Resolution 25-246. This resolution grants a special management area major permit to AJ Beach LLC and JB Beachside LLC to allow for the construction of a new 2-story single-unit dwelling with 2 covered lanais, 2 open lanais, attached 2-car garage, primarily above-ground swimming pool and concrete driveway, and the installation of landscaping and an irrigation system on an approximately 13,724 square foot shoreline, Zone R10 Residential District, located at 914C Punahele Place in Wailupe, and identified as tax map key 3600209. We have posted on the agenda a CD1 version of the resolution, which I submitted. For your information, a summary of that amendment is listed on the agenda. The shoreline setback for the project site is 60 feet. The entire project site is anticipated to be impacted by 3.2 feet of sea level rise by the year 2100. The project's proposed dwelling is located approximately 10 feet from the front property boundary and 60 feet from the anticipated regulatory shoreline. So relocation of the dwelling further Mauka is not possible without redesigning or reducing the size of the dwelling. Instead, the applicant is proposing to use a durable concrete masonry unit perimeter wall foundation to support the dwelling. The existing non-conforming low concrete seawall along the Makai portion of the project site is part of a contiguous seawall that runs along the entire width of the project site and was built in 1949. The seawall encroaches approximately 5 feet into state-owned submerged lands with the State Land Use Conservation District. There is no certified shoreline survey for the project site because Title 13, Chapter 222 of the Hawaii Administrative Rules prohibits the issuance of a survey if a seawall encroaches into state submerged land. However, the presumed shoreline runs along the Makai face of the seawall. On April 25th, 2025, the Board of Land and Natural Resources granted the applicant a right of entry until the board issues a non-exclusive easement or revocable permit to resolve the seawall encroachment. The applicant anticipates receiving a certified shoreline survey within 6 to 12 months. Condition B1 requires that prior to the issuance of construction or building permit for the project, the applicant is required to submit to the DPP a copy of the project certified shoreline survey. Condition H of the proposed CD1 requires the use of pervious surface materials such as grasscrete or grass block pavers for the project's driveway and open parking areas to facilitate drainage within the project site and decrease the storm water runoff volume and velocity toward the ocean. A review of field reports and surveys found that iwi kupuna, or Native Hawaiian ancestral remains, were discovered in 2002, approximately 80 feet north of the project site. In addition, in the 1990s, when Kalania Na'ole was widened, iwi kupuna were discovered west of Hine Drive to Hale Ma'u Street. A majority of the soil on the project site is classified as Jacques sand, which has a higher likelihood of containing subsurface archaeological sites in iwi kupuna. The applicant has contracted for the preparation of an archaeological inventory survey, which will be submitted to the State Historic Preservation District shortly. Condition I of the proposed CD1 includes conditions requiring the applicant to submit to the department a copy of the division's acceptance of the archaeological inventory survey, and to implement all mitigation protocols approved or otherwise required by the division. The applicant proposes to import approximately 450 cubic yards of structural fill material for the concrete masonry unit perimeter wall foundation. No importation of soil fill material is proposed. Since structural fill material may contain invasive pathogens, pests, or plants, the proposed CD1 includes Condition K, which requires the applicant to comply with certain protocols to minimize the spread of invasive species. The project's roof overhang encroaches approximately 2 feet into the 60-foot shoreline setback area. Condition L1 requires the applicant to obtain a minor shoreline structure permit for this encroachment. Joining us in the chamber is Jim Hayes from Planning Solutions, Inc., who will be providing a brief presentation. For your information, the presentation is available online as Miscellaneous Communication 481-2025.
Thank you, Chair. Jim Hayes with Planning Solutions, representing the applicant. Let's see, it's not advancing again. There it goes. All right, hopefully it'll work from there. So this project site is near the front of Anaheina Valley, right on the east side of Wailupe Peninsula. And we already reviewed the zoning and the size. Thanks for doing that, Chair. This aerial photograph illustrates that the project site is currently vacant. It was previously used for residential purposes, but the previous dwelling deteriorated and was removed some time ago. And you'll see that the shoreline residences in this neighborhood tend to be relatively large. And the older residences, the existing residences, are relatively close to the shoreline. This shows the sea level rise exposure area. The sea level rise exposure area in this area is substantially due to high wash of waves. So as sea level rises, it's anticipated that annually there'll be some intrusion by high waves as far inland as Kalanianiole Highway. This illustrates the proposed dwelling. It consists of 2 areas with a lanai between them, as well as a swimming pool. It is set back 60 feet from the shoreline and is consistent with the surrounding properties, except that this dwelling will be set back further from the shoreline than the nearby dwellings. And this is a view from the sea side of the dwelling, illustrating that the dwelling is elevated above the ground level to address the flood zone requirements, and that the pool, the lanai area, is also elevated so that the pool is only partially into the ground, which is reducing the amount of ground disturbance. And we also talked about the perimeter wall foundation, which is another element that will reduce ground disturbance relative to other options. Chair mentioned previously that the seawall encroaches into state property or state submerged lands. We have obtained a non-exclusive easement through the Board of Land and Natural Resources, and the applicant is complying with the conditions of that easement. We've also contracted with ASM affiliates to complete an archaeological inventory survey, and we are waiting for the State Historic Preservation Division to approve our AIS plan. And as soon as that is done, that will proceed. Related to the shoreline certification, that process is now making progress because we have obtained the easement. So that will be available well in advance of building permits. So thank you very much. I appreciate your consideration of this resolution.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions for the agent? Thank you. Before I call up the administration, I would like to take public testimony. Clerks, is there any in-person or remote testimony?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. For the administration, for the Director of Planning and Permitting.
Thank you, Chair. We support the CD1 and we support the project.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? Discussion? If not, the chair recommends that Resolution 25-246 be amended to the posted CD1. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none. The resolution has been amended to a CD1. The chair then recommends that Resolution 25-246 CD1 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Members, I have received a copy of the hand-carried CD2 by the Office of Council Service for Bill 51 CD1. So if you wouldn't mind, I am going to take that action item now. That was originally agenda item number 3 prior to our informational briefing. Is that okay with the committee members? Thank you so much. Moving to agenda item number 3 for action, Bill 51, 2025, CD1. This bill amends the Fort Street Mall Special Improvement District Number 2 and supersedes any conflicting provisions. Highlight it, please. This bill would primarily expand the Fort Street Mall Special Improvement District Number 2 to encompass more of downtown Honolulu and rename the district to the Downtown Honolulu Special Improvement District Number 2. The expanded district is intended to enhance the quality of life in downtown Honolulu by providing residents, businesses, and visitors with a safe, clean, and enjoyable environment in which to live, work, and play, and to revitalize and enhance business in downtown Honolulu. Members, we have posted on the agenda a CD2 version of the bill, which I submitted. For your information, a summary of the amendments is listed on the agenda. As discussed at our previous committee meeting, the proposed CD2 clarifies that in addition to amendments to the district's boundaries, supplemental services and improvements to be provided or financed, and rate or method of apportionment of the special assessment, the revised plan also amends the number of members on the District Association Board of Directors and budget for the district's first fiscal year. We have also distributed a hand-carried CD2 version of the bill, OCS 2025-0776, which I submitted. The hand-carried CD2 incorporates the amendments in my posted proposed CD2 and also revises the Downtown Honolulu Business Improvement District Plan attached in Exhibit 8 to add a new section 10B43 to provide for an exemption from the payment of the district special assessment for parcels exempt from the payment of real property taxes under ROH 810.9B3. This exemption relates to parcels that are exempt from the payment of real property taxes because the parcel is used for church purposes. As I had previously mentioned, this exemption was initially removed from the revised plan, but I am proposing to add it back in. Joining us in the chamber is Chris Fong from Tradewind Capital, who will be providing a brief presentation. For your information, the presentation is available online as Miscellaneous Communication 489-2025. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Zoning Committee. This is my third time presenting on the Business Improvement District, so I will try to keep it short. And really, I just want to reemphasize the need for this and why now. So I'll keep this under 3 minutes. But downtown Honolulu is really compromised. The impression of safety and security is not what it once was, and this has really been exacerbated coming out of COVID. And you can see this by the look and feel when you walk in the district, but you can also see this by the changing retail landscape. And so we've had some major retailers pull out of the district over the last couple of years. So what this tells us as local residents is, mainland businesses are really giving up on this district. But we don't want to. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. Downtown is going through some positive changes too. There has been some great investments from entrepreneurs in the district, things like new hotels, new retailers like Paris Baguette, new pickleball. And so there is positive momentum, but individual entrepreneurs can only do so much. And so I think this is really an effort for the community to step up and support the district as a whole. And so what the BID does, and I know you all know this, but for anyone new, it'll provide safety and security personnel, maintenance personnel, ability to clean the streets, power wash the district, and really revitalize the area and taking it into our own hands. And this is all with the goal of keeping our neighborhoods looking and feeling clean and safe. So I'll end it there. Thank you for the time.
Thank you so much. Members, are there any questions for Mr. Fong? Thank you so much. Before I call up the administration, I would like to take public testimony. Proceeding first with in-person testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, we have a few standing by.
When I call your name, please come forward to the testifier podium and begin by stating your name for the record. Please conclude your remarks promptly when you hear the buzz of the timer. The first testifier is Kikoa McClellan.
Aloha Committee Chair, honorable members of the council, Chair Waters. Thank you so much for accepting this testimony on behalf of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Honolulu. You have my written remarks. I want to thank you for the amendment that was offered, Committee Chair Kiaʻāina. I think relevant to our conversation today really is the connection that the diocese has to the very land that this improvement district seeks to enhance. It is deep and foundational to our history here in Hawaii. You know, the very first Catholic missionaries arrived here on July 7th in 1827. And in 1828, we established our mother church, the Cathedral Basilica of Our Lady of Peace, right here in Honolulu. And that has been the heart of our church ever since. We support the intent of this bill to revitalize the downtown district. A safe, clean, and vibrant environment is good for all of us, including our parishioners. And it's important to note that the resources of our church are funded by charitable contributions and directed toward our mission, which are critical to the comprehensive nature of a special district like the one proposed. So we appreciate the offered amendment and we support the intent of this measure.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions for Mr. McClellan? Thank you so much. Next testifier is Angela Young.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARE. So in the last discussion, I wanted to keep to the technicalities of the discussion and to request Chinatown to be added and propose the amendment so that it can help the council's processes, right? If there are going to be other communities and parcels to be included to help with protecting public safety concerns in the district. And so this time though, as a student of a seminary school, I also like to, be supportive of the church. That churches and religious organizations organizing exclusively for charitable and educational purposes should be exempt from the financial burden. So churches are working class, middle class people. Unlike the Kiaʻāina discussion, they're very rich. They can afford things. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else in the chamber who would like to testify on this item? Seeing none, clerks, do we have any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you so much. For the administration, we have Mike Formby, Managing Director.
Good afternoon, Committee Chair Kiaʻāina, Council members, Mike Formby, Managing Director. The administration continues to support this community initiative for a special improvement district. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Members, any questions? Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Managing Director. Really quickly, with the movement and the goal to clean up the area, what is the plan for those in this area that are homeless or houseless at this time?
So are you talking about a specific area downtown?
No, I'm just wondering, I know that there are homeless, and so as we clean up Chinatown especially, what would be the plans for those who are maybe in this area that are with the plan to clean up and get it safe? What was the thoughts for that?
Yeah, the way I would answer that question is that the city if the special improvement district is established, the city's commitment would probably be more than it is now. And that happens because when the community has boots on the ground in the district and can call CORE, can call my office and say, many times they do with a photo, say this is what's happening in the community, we can react more quickly than if it goes through the normal process that it would. So what I find is that for Waikiki, because of the special improvement district, we actually do more for that community than we do for communities that don't have these districts. So I think it's going to be beneficial for us. I think it will help us respond more quickly. And I think we can work with the public, part of this public-private partnership. We can work with the public and we can work with the community to respond more quickly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Members, any other questions? I have a brief question. One of the testifiers who opposed this measure states in the testimony that a business improvement district alone simply cannot solve these complex social issues. And never once did I think that we are transferring the government's responsibility for downtown to the BID. So I just want to make sure that in creating this, it is our intent, of course, for the city administration, the city agencies, as well as state and federal agencies to work hand in hand with the BID. Is that correct? So
That's
this statement is
absolutely
inaccurate.
correct. Yes, Chair, that's absolutely correct. It's a public-private partnership. And I have stated publicly at the public meetings that we've had on this issue that the city does not intend to do less, we intend to do more. And that's actually what's been proven out in Waikiki. So we're not relinquishing any of our duties to the bid. We're actually going to partner with them.
I just wanted that confirmation because, you know, I've been going to and speaking at a lot of various forums where on a multitude of issues. And at the end of the day, it's about leveraging all resources. It's all resources at every level of government and public-private partnerships, not just the private sector, but our nonprofit, faith-based, community-based institutions and educational institutions, quite frankly. So I just wanted that affirmation. Thank you. Members, if there's no further discussion, the chair recommends that Resolution Bill 51, 2025, CD1 be amended to the hand-carried CD2, OCS 2025-0776. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, the bill has been amended to a CD2. The chair then recommends that Bill 51, 2025, CD2 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving to agenda item number 9 for discussion only. Bill 56, 2025, this bill amends the provisions relating to special management area permits. The bill would require neighborhood board presentations for special management area minor permits, which are processed by the Department of Planning and Permitting and do not require council approval. Special management area minor permits apply to developments that have a valuation of less than $500,000 and will not have any significant adverse environmental or ecological effect. Note that the Department of Planning and Permitting filed Departmental Communication 688-2025 in opposition to the bill. I will now defer to the introducer of the bill, Councilmember Matt Wire, for the explanation of this measure.
Thank you, Chair. And I'll just have it apply broadly to both measures, so no need to explain the second one, because both of them are dealing with discretionary permits. And just in working with the community and trying to find a no-cost or low-cost mechanism to support DPP, who I think we know struggles with enforcement with the notices of violations and even just trying to get out and enforce those or file those. You know, we see that in Kunia, we see that in North Shore, up the hill from Haleiwa. Really the crux of the bill is providing notice to the community so that they can engage with and provide input directly to DPP as they're doing their analyses to ensure that just that firsthand information that the community often has can be discussed and reviewed at the forefront instead of the latter or at the end of the process, where then we see the litigation that arises and just the tension in the community and also at the department itself, who sometimes finds itself bound by, prior administration or administrative decisions. And so that's really the main purpose. And I think there's definitely opportunities to flesh it out more, but definitely understand that, the ultimate goal is to ensure that we're reducing costs all around. And so that means on the development side, on the city side, as we're trying to navigate our enforcement issues, and then of course, avoiding litigation, which is costly for all of our parties. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. For the administration,
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. Elizabeth Krieger with the Department of Planning and Permitting. We submitted testimony, as you said, in opposition to Bill 56. And I wonder, are we talking about both measures now, or should I?
We're only talking about Bill 56.
Okay. So when it comes to SMA minors, one of the things that we wanted to bring attention to right away is that by definition, an SMA minor means an action that has no substantial adverse environmental or ecological effect, taking into account potential cumulative effects. So therefore, we cannot approve an SMA minor permit if we find that it does potentially have ecological effect or cumulative impact. And in those scenarios, we have to deny the SMA minor permit, and they then proceed with an SMA major permit. The SMA major permit needs to go to the city council. It needs to go to the neighborhood board before it's resubmitted to the DPP, and then it comes to the council for decision. So in terms of procedure, we believe that SMA minors, because they are minor in effect, should not warrant a notification to the neighborhood board. In addition to that, we wanted to discuss that an SMA minor permit procedural timeline gives the department 10 days to determine if the application is complete, and then 45 days to submit or to render a decision. With the neighborhood board notification provisions, the neighborhood board has to provide an opportunity to present within 60 days of their request, which would mean that an applicant, rather than applying straight to the department and getting a decision within about 55 days, would have to potentially wait 60 days to either get an opportunity to present or no opportunity, and then another 55 days while the department was going through its procedural decisions. So in terms of SMA minors, I believe that it's unnecessary to go to the neighborhood board. We do we do share with the environmental review program our decisions, and they publish them in the environmental notice. And we are also looking at ways to publish those SMA minor decisions on our website as part of our H&L build upgrades. The final thing that I wanted to say about this is that I looked over the past, in 2024, we got 80 SMA minor permits. And then I looked over the past 5 years, and we've had about 356 SMA minor permits. Some of them are reapplications, but each permit is a separate touch. And for the most part, a lot of those permits are additions to existing dwellings, rooftop telecommunication facilities, fences and walls, storage tanks, rockfall mitigation measures, and additions of like accessory dwelling units. So they are very minor permits, and we have rendered denials on 9 of them. So those 9 either would have proceeded with an SMA major permit or maybe didn't proceed from there. So I'm available to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Before I move to my colleagues, I did have a question. And this is to build about on your comments on the Honolulu build system. Can you explain how the department's new Honolulu build system can be used to identify and check the status of special management area minor permit applications? And second, would this help with public awareness of projects seeking SMA minor permits? Because I'm assuming that is the impetus, that there are a lot of communities who are just frustrated with developers, perhaps, that seem to be circumventing the process.
Well, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure how the H&L build will look on our website yet. We do have a really incredible team of people who are updating our website to reflect all of those things. Right now, what we have is a Google map that shows the application materials for our major permits. And I expect that it'll be an expansion like that it would be reflected on a map, and you could look at your neighborhood and click on things, and that would show the decision.
So when is that going to become available for the minor SMAs?
We don't have a date yet, but we're actively working on it.
Okay, but apart from the decision, what if somebody wants to know about the project? How would they find out about the project?
There's a way to look up the tax map keys. There are also ways to look up every permit that has been generated within the last couple of days. Again, I'm not entirely sure how the public-facing...
I guess what I'm saying is that they would have to know what the application number is. Is there a way that when you have this map and, and say a geographical area, say Kailua, and I press the location of where an SMA minor has been triggered, would I be able to go to it and know everything about it as opposed to just the decision rendered?
Yes, well, the decision rendered would have the full analysis as well as the attached exhibit. So it would be very similar to the kind of information that's in the resolutions for the council.
But not when a minor permit is applied for?
At present, we don't put minor permits on our website. Again, they're very minor in almost all situations.
Okay, thank you. I know that Councilmember Weiler probably have a lot of questions. Members, any other questions? Councilmember Weiler, if you don't mind, I'm going to go to Councilmember Tupola and the others, and then I'll come back to you because I know you have a lot of questions, okay? Councilmember Tupola.
Hi, aloha Liz. Quick question. So in my district, or do you have those 80 broken down by district, or is it?
I don't write here.
No, it's okay. I was just thinking, because I think in my community, I've had more issues not with SMA minors, but with, like, say, for example, what is it called? Someone just did one. The conditional use permit from, like, maybe a residential house into, like, a 500-person church. I just had to mediate a discussion in the middle of the street with everyone about that because it was a conditional use permit that was applied for, but the street has no lights, it has no sewage. Now they're singing at 7 a.m. in between people's houses with 500 people or whatever the number is. So, like, I think that's different than this discussion, but I guess I wanted to know what your thoughts are, because I think for me, issues like that still kind of need to be moderated face to face. Like, we did it, we had a meeting, all the neighbors, which was total of 7, so not that many people live on that street, sat down with the church and we had a discussion about, like, you know, being good community members, how can we move forward on this? So what is your thoughts, especially as maybe it's not necessarily a SMA minor? I mean, I'm not in favor of this bill, but I kind of feel the sentiment when something happens and a conditional use permit is asked for, because the CUP doesn't require neighborhood board either, does it? Like the conditional use permit?
Actually, meeting facility CUP does require neighborhood board notification, and we offer the neighbors the opportunity to request a public hearing for those. So that's part of the next informational briefing is all about CUPs and notification. I agree with you that there are times when a project gets really intense for neighbors, and I do think when it comes to SMA minors, usually, if it's rising to that level where it is an impactful project that is still valued at less than $500,000 or less than $750,000, the department is very often weighing how a project that does not cost that much but may have a major impact should be treated. And in those are the few times, those 9 times, when we have straight up denied a minor project because the impacts might be major. We also, I'm guessing that a lot of the projects that have applied for SMA minor were rejected by us because we have issued 100 incomplete notices. And then in those situations, we're often saying to somebody, you've applied for an SMA minor and either you didn't give us enough information or this isn't the permit for you, you're a major permit.
Yeah.
So I think that that happens a lot of the time. And then they're notified that they first have to go to the neighborhood board. That's the first stop on their process to get a complete application.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. Yeah, I don't have issues with SMA minor permits, so I will reserve my comments for the next one. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Kruger, I just wanted to ask, could you list again the different items that may have been brought up as concerns, rockfall mitigation? Would you be able to list that off again, please?
Sure, I'll read the list that I brought. I have rooftop telecommunication, alterations to dwellings, walls and fences, accessory dwelling unit additions, sewer line upgrades, temporary stockpiling, lighting in commercial properties, rockfall mitigation, storage tanks, wastewater treatment systems, new dwelling units, surfboard racks, EV charging stations, and beach park shower improvements.
Okay, thank you very much for your response to that. I just wanted to ensure. And so when you have that, would that be cause for denial as well, or is that just what comes up more frequently?
That's looking through the 356 projects that were generated in the list. That I went through to kind of pull out some that are repeats. I also made a list of what showed up for the SMA majors, if you'd like to hear that.
No, I think we're okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think it'll be too long, but appreciate the opportunity. And mahalo, Liz. And I think, for me, I definitely am in agreement with everything you mentioned about this legal standard and the level of analysis. But after talking with the community, I think the reason I was comfortable introducing it was just kind of talking through, and it's not SMA specific comments. I know, there's other measures as well. Was that, okay, we have the legal standard, but I think that's assuming that all the information and backstory and relevant details are in the hands of DPP when they're making that determination. And so just to kind of flesh out where the conversation was going before, and as Chair mentioned with Honolulu Builds, I think a part of the issue with the decision being what's put forward is, and again, there's still no notice input opportunity. I understand, there's no public hearing for minors, there's no level of input, but in terms of putting the actual application online, is that still something that's on the table? Because I know we talked with director about that too. Or even it could be as simple as notification from the person when it comes into the neighborhood board. I'm not saying it's even just the neighborhood board that needs to be notified, but I think trying to figure out a notice mechanism that triggers awareness when we know that the neighborhood board doesn't even do hearings for the bulk of SMAs on North Shore in particular. Do you have any thoughts about that, or ways we can kind of solicit or provide a pathway for input that's maybe on point and more factual to ensure that data is getting to DPP without disrupting that flow of review?
Yeah, I think that a lot of those sound like really good ideas and really good ways for us to make sure that electronically it's available so that people can review what's being submitted to us. And then from there, ways for us to maybe not, like, a lot of permits already have neighborhood board notifications, just the papers. But also if if we were posting a lot of minor permits online, and like I said, over the last couple of years, 350 permits, if the neighborhood board chairs made it part of their procedure to kind of check on our website to see if they wanted to discuss those things at their meetings or something like that, or if anything was coming up, that we could definitely make that notice. I do think that on the North Shore in particular, some of the properties that I know to be very controversial have gotten a lot of incomplete notices from us when it comes to SMA minors, because we have repeatedly told them that they needed SMA majors. So in those scenarios, we'd have to discuss more whether we were going to post all of our incomplete applications as well. But I do think that a lot of the time that's occurring.
Appreciate that. That's helpful. Mahalo, mahalo, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you so much. If there's no other further questions, we're going to now take public testimony. Proceeding first with in-person testimony in the chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers?
Chair, we have a couple standing by.
When I call your name, please come forward to the testifier podium and begin by stating your name. Please conclude your remarks promptly when you hear the buzzer of the timer. Buzz of the timer. Raquel Achu.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. Okay, so with the minors, I get the definition, and that's not what we're opposing. We're very appreciative that our Councilmember Wire introduced this. We've been hounding this for years, but we've entered a time now, especially on the North Shore, where it warrants at least a notification to immediate neighbors and to the boards. We are inundated with projects throughout our community. Basically, they're coming in for minors. They're lying to you guys. They're lying. I have 2 projects I can, right out of the top of my head. We're dealing with Gondola Boy out there, and we have a house that came in for a SMA minor on a shoreline, a major shoreline, and they got a minor for alterations to an existing pool. This house is down the street from my house. There's never been a pool. It's a massive build. Just the other day, steel beams being hauled in. It warrants notification so that we as a community can understand what is taking place in our community. Most of these guys are developers and not residents. So they're really abusing the system in that sense. It's hard to, for me, I can look through all of the websites and everything, but most people cannot. And that's what there's huge infractions happening and warrant at least our notification of it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm before you sit down, I'm pretty sure that there's questions to so that you can further discuss some of the concerns that you're facing. Councilmember Wire, do you have any questions for her?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, if you could maybe walk through, because that's a good point too, like notification to just one individual may not get out to the entire community. So maybe if you could walk through, what would the ideal scenario be in your mind and how would things play out? And maybe just explaining that, because we've had SMAs come through the North Shore. Oftentimes those don't even get a hearing. Like there's certain things that folks are looking for. So practically speaking, because I know we're having this conversation in the context of there's always concern of, oh, we're adding cost, we're adding time to projects and making it harder to develop. So maybe if you could just kind of sift through how that wouldn't necessarily be the case in this particular context.
Absolutely. So naturally, we don't want to burden the DPP with further timelines as they're, progressing the way they are. But we do feel that there's a huge gap in how the community is made aware of major impacts. So if someone comes in and says they're doing alterations and it turns into this massive 18-bedroom possibly a vacation rental, and we skipped all of the environmentals. That's what the SMA says. No impact to environmental, but clearly they have an impact. They dug, we've heard rumors of iwi kupuna, and I can't prove that. Nobody's checking. It's only what I heard. And the further build of things. So at least having that notification, and people on the board don't want to listen to those things unnecessarily, but if they're in locations and in spaces that we are very familiar with, I believe we're able to provide good information to all of the necessary agencies to provide a better decision and hold these developers, landowners accountable for what they're putting in, because they're now parceling these projects. If your build is over 500,000 or now 750, they're just going in and saying, oh, it's only 200. This permit said for this pool, 68,000. If you guys saw that pool today, I'm telling you, you're missing out on some money, because it's overwhelming the violations that are there. But they're blatant. They just basically dismiss our process and the community that they're taking place in.
So just final question for me. Hearing that, it's not even that you're disagreeing with the legal standard and what DPP is doing,
right?
But you're saying, what I'm hearing is that DPP isn't necessarily having all the accurate information that they should or could when they're
Right.
making these determinations.
Yes.
Okay, mahalo. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Raquel.
Thank you.
Next testifier is Kathleen Pahinui.
Aloha, Council Committee Chair, Council members. Thank you for your time. I am here actually today as Chair of the North Shore Neighborhood Board, and I'm the one that gets most of the notifications. Again, we're just asking for a heads up. That's all we're looking for. And if we can figure out a way via computer so people can go in and search, I would recommend, though, when they are the application goes in, not when a decision is made. Because again, it's too late then for us to affect any change or any positive change, or to help you guys perhaps with additional information. So that would be my recommendation. This bill is on our agenda tonight. We have our board meeting tonight. So I will take back this really great discussion, and hopefully we can come back with some suggestions for you. We're not married to what's in the bill. We've discussed with Councilmember Wire. We're very grateful for him introducing this. We're not married to the language. We're open for it, but we just need to have a place to start the conversation. So we really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much as well. If there are no questions, we're gonna, clerks, do we have any remote testifiers? Oh, I'm sorry. Is there anyone else in the chamber who would like to testify on this item?
Thank you. Thank you, Jim Hayes. You guys are familiar with me as a representative of developers, but I'm also a community involved in the community, and work with Sierra Club and others, and have certainly environmental protection on my mind. And I work with DPP all the time. And as Liz has outlined, they have the discretion to require someone that applies for an SMA minor to boost it up to an SMA major. And I believe that they exercise that discretion well, in my experience. And that it sounds like more of the problem might be with people that might get a permit for one thing, but then they end up actually building something else. And that's a notice of violation scenario. But having a requirement to go to the neighborhood board and request a presentation, it sounds like a simple thing to require, but it does add to the timeline, and it adds substantially to the cost of preparing an application. And when you're talking about oftentimes we're talking about someone wants to build a wall or a fence or something small like that with these SMA minors. And so the total application is relatively easy and inexpensive to produce. But when you add going to the neighborhood board and notifying all the neighbors and having that notification, preparing an affidavit for that and all that, it adds substantially to the burden of preparing the application. So I don't feel that that is warranted in the case of an SMA minor. So I appreciate the opportunity to add my opinion to the discussion.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else in the chamber who would like to testify? Going on to remote testifiers, is Benjamin Sadowski available online?
Chair, no.
Is there anyone else online who would like to testify on this matter?
Chair, there are none.
Members, any questions or discussion before we move on to our last agenda item? Seeing none, moving on to agenda item number 10 for discussion only, Resolution 25-228. This resolution proposes an amendment to Chapter 21 Revised Ordinances of Honolulu, 2021, the Land Use Ordinance relating to conditional use permits. The resolution would direct the Director of Planning and Permitting to process an amendment to the Land Use Ordinance to require neighborhood board presentations for minor conditional use permits, which are processed by the Department of Planning and Permitting and do not require council approval. Currently, ROH Section 21-240-1 requires a neighborhood board presentation for minor conditional use permits involving certain uses such as transmitting antennas, meeting facilities, daycare facilities, schools or hotels with up to 180 rooms in the BMX 3 zoning district. Because this is an amendment to the Land Use Ordinance, the amendments proposed in the draft bill attached to the resolution must be processed by the Department of Planning and Permitting and the Planning Commission. Note that the department filed Departmental Communication D-686-2025 requesting additional information that will assist the DPP in processing the Land Use Ordinance Amendment. I will now defer to the introducer of the measure, Councilmember Matt Wire, for an explanation.
Thank you, Chair. I think the explanation for the other measure, I would just reiterate that without repeating all of it. So that would be the general purpose and intent. And I think in particular, you know, we've seen projects in the news and in the community recently that have just generated a lot of controversy. And again, I think it comes down to trying to avoid, you know, unnecessary concern on the community side, unnecessary litigation, and then of course just simplifying the process too when sometimes we find ourselves stuck in maybe previously made determinations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. For the administration?
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. Elizabeth Krieger. This is another fun conversation where I've brought a bunch of facts about what we've done in the last 5 years to share. It's really interesting to me when I broke down these numbers. In the last 5 years, we've processed 227 conditional use permit minors and only 14 conditional use permit majors. And in fact, those are applications. They're not, some of them, many were returned as incomplete. So I'd like to tell you what kind of permits we had for those overall 241 permits. In the minors category, we had 5 agribusiness applications, 5 daycare facilities, 1 hotel in the industrial mixed use district, 12 meeting facilities, 6 outdoor recreation, 1 salvage, scrap, junk, and storage processing, 3 schools, and 3 waste disposal and processing facilities. So those are all of the ones that were, there were relatively small numbers of those. And some of those had to apply twice because they had been sent back as incomplete the first time. Where we see the major numbers is we had 126 joint development agreements. So a joint development agreement is essentially a paper transaction where one zoning lot can be developed with a permitted principal use on 2 zoning lots or more zoning lots. We also had 15 off-site parking agreements, which again is relating to lots and only relating to parking. We had 37 telecommunications, so like maybe monopoles or rooftop installations, and then we had 12 solar applications. So in general, just to give you a good sense of that, about half of our SMA minor permit applications were for joint developments, and the joint development, again, doesn't approve a use in particular. As the chair read, the daycare facilities, meeting facilities, schools, and transmitting antennas all require neighborhood board presentations already. So that means that I think that we should focus not on all conditional use permit minors requiring neighborhood board presentation, but we should focus in on exactly which projects, which types of projects are the ones that are likely to have impacts and are likely to be controversial within the community, and make those particular uses go to the neighborhood board.
Thank you so much. And can I ask, similar to the SMAs where you have the discretion to require a major SMA, do you have the discretion here to require a major CUP?
It's sort of like that, because the difference between a major and a minor CUP is that a minor permit is a 45-day permit and a major permit is a 90-day permit with a public hearing. So the department holds a public hearing. For those uses that I called off, the meeting facility, school, daycare facility, transmitting antenna, they first of all have to go to the neighborhood board, and then when we accept those permits for processing, we notify the neighbors that we've accepted a permit, and those neighbors can ask us to hold a public hearing. If the neighbors ask us to hold a public hearing, we extend the procedure from 45 days to 90 and hold that administrative hearing.
Okay, but I want to zero in on the CUP minors that are not requiring a neighborhood board presentation. Does DPP still have the authority, if it is a questionable project or contentious project, do you have the discretion to require a public hearing or make them go through a CUP major?
No, we can't make them go through a major if they're minor, and if they're not in that list of those permits that need to be notified to the neighbors. If those uses, like really, let's be honest, we're talking about agribusiness and agritourism, right? Those are the main ones that people are concerned about. If we add that to the list, just like meeting facilities, daycare facilities, and schools, then that would go under that same procedure where we would notify neighbors and they could ask for a hearing.
Okay, so you wouldn't do it on your own discretion to hold a public hearing?
We don't have
for the delineated ones, the neighborhood board can ask you. So if we want to add anything, we should be considering, rather than making across the board, looking at certain projects that are causing concern and consider adding it to the list. Is that correct?
That's what I would recommend.
Okay, thank you so much. Members, any questions before we go to public testimony? Do you have any questions? Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. Just one. And just stemming off of that, because if we're specifically honing in on ag activities, offering a neighborhood board presentation while not requiring it, leaving it up to the conversation between the developer and the board, would actually be less burdensome, right, than having the public hearing process, or maybe not. Maybe could you walk us through that? Like, because normally if DPP did the public hearing, you'd have to, get the room, do the notice, right, all of that stuff, versus just having, maybe a presentation or the offer of such presentation if we honed in on just maybe agricultural land. Just a thought that I welcome input on.
The way the code works right now, it's kind of a both and. So first you have to notify the neighborhood board, or you have to request a presentation to the neighborhood board. When they offer you the opportunity, you have to tell the neighbors that you're going to do it, and then you apply to the department. We check and make sure you notified the neighborhood board. Then we send a notification to all those neighbors to say, hey, we're accepting this permit. Do you want a hearing? And if we hear back from the neighborhood board or the neighbors or anybody who says, hey, you should hold a public hearing and here's why, then the director has the discretion to hold the hearing.
Okay, but then that doesn't apply to agritourism.
Right now, it doesn't
Because of
apply
this.
to agritourism, but if this proposed amendment added it to that list, then it could apply to that use, which is one of the reasons that in our letter, we kind of had that segment of the master use table to say which of these uses are the ones that are of concern, because the history of it is that in the 1980s, when meeting facilities, schools, and daycare facilities were going to require a conditional use permit for the first time ever, the communities wanted hearings, and of course the users of those types of uses did not want hearings. So it was going to be a major permit versus minor, and then they kind of did this blended minor with the opportunity so that the neighborhood could focus in on those uses that were more likely to have an impact compared to, say, something where the master plan for that community has a school-sized lot that already has roads that are designed for schools and that kind of thing. So it was built into the code to create that kind of flexibility.
Interesting. Appreciate that. Thank you, Chair.
Members, any other questions? We're going to go to public testimony. For in-person testimony, we have Raquel Achu.
Thank you. Raquel Achu, Wailomoku. Same issues as with the SMA, but I will, the reason this points out, and I'll just take the elephant out of the room, is we've got a gondola project that came in under a CUP minor right out of the gate. No notice, no hearing, nothing, and that's not a small project. And it was presented the way it's forming, and now it's morphing, and it's out of control on ag land and so on and so forth. So clearly there's got to be a way to be able to inform and adjust the way the process is being done so that we're trying to be preventive on our end. I don't want to have to hound the DPP every time something comes up because it's a lot and I'm a pest. But I want to be preventive versus reactive for the future of all of our communities. It's critical. We're in that stage right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that wanted to present in-person testimony? Please come to the podium and provide your testimony.
Aloha. Thank you, Chair. I like where the chair was going with maybe changing some of the categories and put them into that higher level that Elizabeth pointed out. Raquel is right, this gondola should never, and that was in the previous administration, should never have been approved. It's massive. You can't put a gondola or a zip line out without putting up substantial infrastructure. We are currently going around to the neighborhood boards, and so far we've got 6 or 7 have supported us. Our own neighborhood board does not support this project. We support, that it really should have been a CUP major, not a minor. So I like where Chair's going with this. And again, we're not married to the language. We're open, and this will also be on our October board agenda. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before I call up the next testifier, is it okay? I'd like to find out a little bit more about how DPP made their decisions on the gondola project in North Shore.
So the gondola project came in originally as a conditional use permit minor application in, I believe, 2017, maybe 2018. And then it was approved in 2018 or 2019. 2019. So it came in late 2018, was approved early 2019. And it was reviewed as an agribusiness project where the agricultural use was 50% of the zoning lot area, which was approximately 2,200 acres. And the gondola is proposed as an agricultural transport system. So the way the code is written and then the way the decision was rendered, that's part of that agricultural transport system. And then they propose, in addition to that, the agribusiness element of the proposed use.
So did they only need a minor CUP and a minor SMA?
They did not need a minor SMA because they're not in the special management area. And yes, they only needed a minor conditional use permit.
And so what is the status of their application? Is this project moving forward?
I believe they're coming in for, they had applied for a minor modification to the conditional use permit. They recently withdrew that minor modification application, and they will be resubmitting a minor modification application shortly.
And for their minor modification, does that require a public hearing?
The minor modification does not require a
Because
public
they're not
hearing.
part of it. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. I'm a little shocked myself about the project, and under the guise of an agribusiness, and complete disrespect for the proposal of a gondola. I don't know of any place in Hawaii where people would want a gondola. So anyway, questions, Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. Just quickly, and I'm just specifically on the withdrawal of the application to modify the modification application, because I had heard that they did, but then they hadn't officially done it. But then do we have an official correspondence or anything that you can communicate or transmit over to just relay that information, like if an official request did come in?
Yeah, we did get an official request, and I can send that over to you.
Okay, mahalo.
Okay, thank you. And thank you. I'm going to go back to public testimony. Is there anyone else in the chamber who would like to testify in person? Please proceed.
Jim Hayes, testifying as a citizen. I also prepare a lot of conditional use permit applications, which don't come to this committee, but I work with DPP on these frequently, from meeting facilities to waste facilities, et cetera, et cetera. And I can understand the desire to have more public transparency in these. But as Liz has laid out, I think the ones that do require neighborhood board meetings are appropriate. But when you talk about joint use development and parking and things like that, I don't think those should be thrown into the same bucket. Those don't warrant going to the neighborhood board. I will say, however, that agribusiness, preparing a CUP application for an agribusiness development is a substantial undertaking, and people that do that certainly have the time and wherewithal to go to the neighborhood board. And in my experience, the people that are engaged in that type of business tend to bend the rules more than others. So I think they should have a strong relationship with their community, and requiring agribusinesses to go to the neighborhood board would help develop that relationship. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. That was going to be the question I was going to ask you. So you would support an amendment to the underlying ordinance adding agribusiness?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Any other testifiers in person? If not, do we have any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
I know that Benjamin Sadolski had signed up. I just wanted to call your name out since you did sign up. And if you're not online, I'm going to be closing this section of the informational briefing. And actually, just wanting to thank everybody who came out here today, as well as I want a special mahalo to the Office of Council Services, not only for helping us for the long agenda, but also the last-minute hand-carried CD2 for Bill 51. So thank you so much for that. I know it wasn't easy. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.